Sonny Donnelly, IFL TV in association with MGM Marbella. I'm here in the Matchroom Gym today in Brentwood and I'm with trainer Tony Sims. Tony, you've got Kevin Mitchell, Ricky Burns, Martin J. Wald, O'Hara Davis in today, John Ryder as well. What have you been doing with the boys today?
Ted Cheeseman.
Ted Cheeseman as well, sorry. Oh, let's take that.
Yeah, no, they've all just been doing, well, Kevin, Martin Wald and O'Hara Davis all sparred today. And then John Ryder, Ted Cheeseman and Ricky Burns all done pad work today. So, yeah, they've all been working hard today in the gym.
The video's going to go up later of the boys in the masks, and obviously a lot of people are going to ask questions, so can you explain to me a little about what they're about?
Yeah, they've been about for a while, but I decided to try one out a little while ago, and there's different altitudes you can run at, 3,000 feet, 6,000 feet. And what I've read up about it is it expands the lungs capacity as well. It's giving your red blood cells, which is your oxygen cells, it gives you more of them, so you're like training at altitude. But I think they're, you know, they're good. You've got to go with the times. You can't just be old-fashioned in everything you do, so you've got to ride with the times. So we're just on a trial basis with them at the minute, and the boys seem to be enjoying training. They're doing their pads in them and their bag work in them, and they're doing their long runs in them. So we'll just use them and see how they go with him.
Ricky Burns was sweating buckets. He's smiling in the background now, dripping wet, but yeah. He looked like he was caking.
Yeah, you seem to sweat more in them as well, for some reason. So yeah, we'll just see how they go. Anyway, the boys enjoy wearing them at the moment. So
obviously you've got the wonderful Ricky Burns behind you and Kevin Mitchell in the gym, both lightweights, both highly ranked.
Yeah. What
do you think about the rankings at the moment?
Well, you know, Sky put on the rankings, I think it was after the Luke Campbell fight in Hull, and they ranked like Ricky at 1 and then Kevin and Crawler at 2 and 3, and then they ranked like Flanagan and Derry Mathews underneath them, and I know there was a little bit of controversy over them rankings, like Frank Warren saying that it was like biased by Sky to rank the fighters like that. Because obviously Burns and Mitchell and Crawler are Sky fighters. But the way I see it is, this would take nothing away from Terry Flanagan. He's a great fighter. I know him really well. He's been down my gym sparring, you know, and you know, he went and won the world title. Even though it was a little bit controversial the way he won it, but you got to realise the reason why Ricky Burns and Kevin Mitchell are ranked highly by Sky is the calibre of fighters they've been fighting. You know, you got to earn your stripes in this game, and when you look at the people they've fought, you know, they've had over 40 fights, both of them. Look at the names on their records compared to the names on Flanagan and Derry Mathews records. You know, and they've been fighting in a completely different league. So, you know, of course, Sky are going to rank them high. You know, until Flanagan and Derry Mathews start fighting the calibre of fighters they've been fighting, like Figaro, Linares, them sort of fighters. You know, until they start getting into that league of fighting, then then their rankings could change. But at the moment, you know, being WBO lightweight champion doesn't mean to say that you're the best in Britain. Not until you fight and beat good fighters, and that's what, you know, they've got to do.
How do you think Terry Flanagan would fare against someone like Kevin or Ricky?
You know, every fighter thinks they can beat another fighter, do you know what I mean? But at this moment in time, I don't believe Terry Flanagan could beat Ricky and Kevin. He's not been in that league of fighting yet. And you know, the last guy he fought, the Argentinian, you know, he got beat on a split decision up against Roman Martinez, and that was his like great claim to fame for the super featherweight title. I mean, Ricky beat him absolute years ago, you know, when Roman Martinez was probably at his best. So, you know, you can't, you know, beat a fighter like that and then say, oh, I'm a better fighter than everyone else. Not that he's saying that, he's not saying that at all. He's a really nice guy, Terry, and I know he's trainer as well, but like Frank Warren's putting that about, saying no problem, Flanagan will beat them. I'll say no problem that Mitchell and Burns will beat Flanagan and Mathews, no problem at all. I think they're a different league completely to them two.
Do you think any of them fights could happen in the future?
Be very difficult for them to happen because you know, the WBO title that Terry Flanagan holds, obviously promoted by Frank Warren, so it's difficult making fight between Matchroom and Frank Warren. So you'd like to think them fights could happen, but I think the only way they could happen if like one of them gets into mandatory position. Now Ricky's fighting for the WBO Intercontinental title against an Australian kid, Josh King. That'll give him a top 10 ranking in the WBO. Maybe he can go into a final eliminator and then get a mandatory spot, and that's probably the only way they're going to happen. I don't see any voluntaries going to be handed to Kevin and Ricky because they're too dangerous of fights to put in the voluntaries. So we'll have to get in, you know, one of them in a mandatory position. I mean, Kevin's number 3 with the WBC at the moment, so you know he needs to come back and have another win. And you know, you got to remember against Linares, it was total cuts that ended that fight. You know, he literally took a knee because he couldn't see anything. Bearing in mind he was in front in the fight, you know, and beating a free-weight world champion as well, who everyone says is the best fighter in the lightweight division. On all the cards, Kevin was in front until that 10th round. You know, in my opinion, he should have, Kevin should have had the doctor brought in, and it should have been stopped on a technical decision really. But you know, it's no good going over spilt milk. What's happened's happened. He should be WBC champion really now. But what's happened's happened, and you know he's got to go back to the drawing board. As I say, he's number 3 in the WBC, and he's got to get the fight. He's got to be mandatory again and get the fight against Linares again.
What was that like for you as a trainer, watching it all unfold in the ring, obviously seeing Kevin do so well and knocking Linares down, and then just watching the cut gradually get worse and no one doing anything about it? What was that like for you sitting in the corner?
You know, being in the corner, you obviously got your cuts man that was patching up the cut as best as you can, you know, and you know, the referee is a fantastic referee, Victor Lockram, was doing the job that he thought was right, you know what I mean? But you got to look at the Selby fight before it, you know. The cut was nowhere near as bad as what Kevin Mitchell's cut was, you know, and that got took to the doctor and the fight got stopped. So it's like I'm saying, is everything you can cry about spilt milk afterwards, you know. At the end of the day, you know, we didn't come away with a WBC title, which you know we hope to get that night. But he's just got to work his way back into contention again, you know, which I'm sure he can do. He's had a little break. The cuts have healed up well, really well. He's seen the top surgeon as well about his eyes and his skin, and you know it's all healed up really well. So you know he's been training hard again, and you know come December the 12th, I'm sure he'll have a decent opponent, and he'll just work his way back into contention.
So if he does overcome that fight on December the 12th, is it likely that we could see another fight against Linares sort of mid next year?
Well, yeah, well, that's what he's going to work towards. Obviously, he's going to fight a top-ranked opponent again, top 10 opponent in the WBC. Hopefully, after this fight, he'll go mandatory again for Linares. If not, he'll do eliminator to go mandatory. And you know, I'm sure the Linares fight again will happen next year. Once he gets in mandatory position, then you know, then he'll go to purse bids, and hopefully Eddie can win the purse bid again. And I'm sure by this time next summer that the fight will be back on again with Linares.
I hope it is. Another fight I've just got to talk about quickly, John Ryder. Obviously he lost his British title fight against Nick Blackwell. Had a 6-rounder the other week and won it very comfortably. What's happening with him? What sort of route are you going to go down now? Is he going to try and go for the British again, or is he going to go down another route?
Because like Ed Ewan mentioned Bryan Rose to me the other day, possibility of fighting Bryan Rose. I don't know whether Bryan's moving up to middleweight or not, so I've just got to see what Ed Ewan says really, what he's got in store for John. I mean, obviously that loss was a really disappointing loss because I felt like John had the beating of Nick Blackwell comfortably. You know, in the first half of the fight, obviously he was in front, but something went wrong. We retook a look at the diet he was on with a dietitian. We've changed dietitians. I don't feel as though he'd done the weight correctly. So we've had a re-look at that. And we just got to see what Eddie's got in store for him, and what, you know, he needs to get back into a decent fight. You know, his aim is to get back in with Nick Blackwell, and that's his aim. But you know, he's got to obviously work his way back in as well. So we'll see what Eddie's got in store for him.
Would you take that Bryan Rose fight if it did come up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, John's got to take any fight really that comes along at the minute, wherever Eddie offers him. You know what I mean? So I don't really know what Bryan's doing whether he is moving up or he's staying at light middle. I know he's a big light middle, but Eddie did mention that name to me, so we'll just see what happens with that fight, whether it comes to fruition or not. So, but John will be ready to take any sort of fight like that at the moment.
Well, 2016 is going to be a really exciting year for not just Matchroom but the Matchroom gym and all your fighters, isn't it?
Yeah.
O'Hara.
Yeah, go on.
O'Hara Davis, obviously at lightweight, he's fighting Christopher Truman in a few weeks. He's very highly rated, O'Hara. Like everyone you speak to, he's the sort of like the golden boy that people are talking about. How far can you see him going?
Yeah, he's young, he's enthusiastic, he's a bit raw, but his power, his punch power is phenomenal. You got to remember as well, like he's sparring constantly with like Ricky Burns, Kevin Mitchell, Martin J. Wolf, so they're constantly sparring with good fighters all the time. So that's obviously bringing him on. He's got a little bit to learn, but I have got high hopes of him. I've kept him quiet a little bit, like behind the scenes, but he's coming on really well in the gym. He's got quite a good boxing brain, which no one's seen yet as well. Like because when he takes kids out early, he's not being able to box. And I want to see a fight that comes to him, that sticks it on him, and so that he can use his jab and use his boxing brain. Obviously, put his combinations together, but he ain't met no one like that yet. I mean, he's taken out everyone early, and the two distance fights he did have was just in with survivors, completely surviving the round. So he's not been able to show that yet, but in the gym he's got a great style on him. He's got a great jab, and he puts his combinations together with fast hands. And I've got high hopes for Davis. He's very dedicated as well. So we'll see how he goes. But I hope to move him into an English title soon, and then from there go into eliminators for the British. So that's where we are with him at the moment.
All right then, mate. Well, thank you very much for your time, because I know you're a very busy man. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for talking to iFilm.
Nice one, son.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.